Good morning. Welcome to Unity Longmont Spiritual Center, Easter Sunday, the 9th of April, 2023. I am Deva Money. I will be speaking about resurrection, and we have Christina Hildebrandt to provide us with her beautiful music, and we'll start with that, Christina. Thank you. Thank you, Christina. It's at this time that we go into prayer by taking a breath together, becoming increasingly aware of our breath, our minds, our hearts, and our bodies. Beloved presence everywhere present, we celebrate Easter today. We celebrate the existence of hope and light. We become increasingly aware of our own light and the light of others, all of which is a part of the whole, a part of what we may call God, Spirit, a part of divinity. We know in this moment we are never separate from each other, nor from the light and the love. It is our essence. And we are so grateful for that opportunity to experience it and to have this life. We join today to explore what Easter means to us individually and how it may guide us, providing wisdom and sacred knowledge. And so it is. Amen. We will hear from Christina.
See the green blade rising from the buried grain, seeds of wheat in darkness many months have lain. They grow again when watered by the rain. Joy can rise again like wheat that springeth green. When your heart is wintry, grieving and in pain, water seeds of joy and come to life again. Fields of our hearts that cold and bare have been, grow and thrive again like wheat that springeth green.
Thank you, Christina. So in this moment, I light a candle to remind us of the increasing light at this time of the year, and hopefully the increasing light in us at all times. Hope has power. And at this time, we may become increasingly aware of hope. The days are longer, the light is brighter, the temperatures may be more comfortable. When Christianity was first introduced to pagans, it was found that the pagans had a goddess called Estra, the goddess of life. And it was about this time of the year. And they had a huge festival in which this goddess of life was celebrated. So there was a combining of the pagan and the Christian. It's also at this time of the year that we celebrate the growing light in our days. We may become increasingly aware of that. And we're reminded that light is the understanding principle in divine order. Light is a significant aspect of the divine. It is the first thing that came into the world. It is the first thing that comes into our own consciousness when we are growing spiritually. And it is a symbol of wisdom. We are reminded that Jesus said, "I am the light of the world. I am the light of the world." He meant that he was the expresser of all truth. and a reminder that I am is the name that God declared in the Old Testament. I am who am. And in his lifetime, we know that Jesus said, I am 7 times. We also know at a very deep level that that is what we are made of, the I am. So for a moment, just listen to the sound of the divine name, I am. I am. On this day, and hopefully all days, we consider, how can we share our own light? In the life of Jesus, he shared his light wherever he went. It was something that impacted other people. We too can impact others with our light and with our love. Stories continue to have an impact on us. What about them is it that touches us? If we can identify with the main character, we get really pulled in. And then drama, some kind of drama is required in the story. It can be a kind of quiet drama where the main character has an epiphany. Something about themselves or the world makes new sense. So let us consider today, what is there about Easter that makes some kind of divine sense for each of us? Drama grabs our attention and it massages our emotions. When you hear or watch a story, your emotions are stimulated. You may feel a sense of love, you may feel a sense of suspense. All kinds of things get activated in us. The story of Jesus is filled with drama, none greater than the crucifixion and the resurrection. The crucifixion and the resurrection have so much drama. We know in his life, he spent time learning, developing wisdom, and dispensing guidance, not just to his disciples, but to those he met. Those qualities and more attracted a following. He had a calling and fulfilled it. Callings are very important. We each may have callings at different times in our life. A calling is something that invites you to be better as a person, that may invite you to serve others. And the invitation does not stop until we begin the calling. Last week, we looked at how Jesus triumphantly came into Jerusalem on a donkey. After that, we know the story tells us that his apostle Judas decided to betray Jesus and deliver him to the chief of priests for 30 silver pieces. We know after attending the Last Supper with his apostles, he visited the Garden of Gethsemane to pray to God. We know he was then delivered to Pontius Pilate and sentenced to death. We know he took his final steps carrying a huge cross through throngs of people, angry people yelling at him. We know that in his last breath, he committed himself to his Father. Shortly after, his body was returned to his followers, and he was buried in a tomb with ointment from the Marys. 3 days later, the tomb was empty. The rock had been rolled away. And Mary of Magdala came looking, and she saw Jesus. She was the first to see Jesus. However, she thought he was the gardener. It made no sense it would be Jesus, right? But it would make sense for it to be the gardener until he spoke her name. And then she knew. Think for a moment when someone speaks your name, when someone recognizes you, when someone acknowledges you. Jesus then presented himself to several other disciples and to Thomas. And Thomas did not believe it was Jesus until he touched his wound. Think for a moment of the discomfort, the pain of not being believed, of not being acknowledged. We've heard the story many times, and yet it still impacts us because it's such a powerful story. We know the ending, but the buildup, all the things that took place, capture our attention and our imagination. We can imagine what it might have felt like to be Jesus, to see the writing on the wall, to understand for some period of time that he was facing his death. Rather than running and hiding, he continued to move toward it. He briefly experienced doubt, but he kept coming back to faith. Faith in life, faith in his beliefs, faith in God, and faith in himself. This faith provided him with dignity, compassion, and grace. Let us imagine for a moment what it was like to go through some of his moments. Resting in the Garden of Gethsemane, perhaps relishing the silence and the companionship. Then being approached by soldiers and choosing to surrender. And facing Pontius Pilate, again with acute awareness of what was happening and what would happen. And then that moment of dragging this huge wooden cross through the mob and being witnessed in that. And if we can for a moment, imagine the agony of being nailed to the cross. And then the cross lifted up high. And in that vulnerable position, being seen by so many. And imagine looking down and seeing Mother suffering. These days, these hours, these moments of torment. It's a pretty phenomenal person willing to go through that. Willing to go through that to demonstrate to us that we don't have just this one life and die, but that our soul, our spirit continues beyond death. Let us imagine for a moment, what was it like when he called out to his Father? And let us remember the times that we too have been brought to our knees and called out. And perhaps let us remember the times that we felt some response coming out of aloneness into belonging. What did he experience in those 3 days of suspension in the tomb? It may be unimaginable. And what did he experience with the freedom of coming out of that tomb and then seeing his beloved friend, Mary Magdalene, and sharing his wound with Thomas, the intimacy of that. So the story describes him with a sense of glory. And his glory wasn't just about him. It was always, always about who he represented, who he was a part of, as we are a part of. Magnificence and beauty. How did he experience those states of being? Glory, magnificence, beauty. And let us recognize when we too have those states of being, when we too become aware of glory, of magnificence, and of beauty. Through most of his journey, he experienced a deep union with God. There were a couple of times he lost that, but he always recovered it quickly. And I'm imagining each time he did, that sense of presence was expanded. So think for a moment of our own times of losing that and our own times of recovering that. That is a resurrection. Coming back to knowing who we are and what we are a part of, this whole everything. That is a resurrection. How do we remain in that union when life is moving in a different direction than we would have planned or hoped? How do we remain connected to that when we are experiencing anguish? Because as a human being, we do at times. And when we feel betrayed by another, how do we maintain that unity? When we're able to stay in that union, there's comfort. There's such a knowing of belonging. When we lose that, there's such suffering. So let us remember we can come back again and again. And let us remind each other of that. When we see someone suffering, we don't even need to use words. Let us just see them as a child of God. Let us see their light and share our light. And that cultivates hope. So what does the story have to do with us? We've touched on a few things. Our lives may not be as dramatic as Jesus's. Our individual lives may not have the impact on the world like Jesus's. But each of us goes through a spiritual journey. Each of us impact some others. It's helpful, it's useful to question what impact do we want to have and are we having it? Perhaps we've lived our best life that we can, and those times of heroism stand out. Times of surrender are remembered. times of performing less well, times of making mistakes, because we are human. We have each experienced our own tragedies and losses. We've each experienced those. And here we are in this moment, resurrected many times. Life is rich with wonder, and it's wrought with grief. Part of the invitation to us, I believe, is to stay present in each of those moments, through the magnificence and through the tragedy, to stay present. And when we are present as a human being, we will have many responses, many emotions come up. Our body will respond, our mind, our hearts respond. And when we stay present in those moments, we are aware of presence, the presence around us and the presence within us. It is the same presence. So let's look at some of the pinnacles and troughs of this story that are parallel to our own. In our hardest times, we have felt as though there's an execution of some part of ourself or some belief. Many times in our lives, we transform. We let go of something old that served us and no longer does. And we move into something new, something expansive. There are probably many times that our ego was strained or restrained and then surrendered to something higher. There are probably times we've each had crucifixion experiences. Only we get to name our own crucifixion experiences. When we reflect on it now, we may see the resurrection that followed. What was resurrected? Hope. Possibly a better version of ourselves, greater compassion, and more kindness. We probably each have had our own personal callings. And callings often include loss and gain. Some callings are particularly challenging. When we come to the other side of those challenges, we feel enormous gratitude. And we recognize that grace accompanied us the entire way. Hope has risen and light is shining. So as humans, I invite us to question several things. Who am I? Please ask yourself, who am I? Am I truly fully human and fully divine? And what does that mean? What do I need? What do I want? If I believe prayer and meditation and spiritual practices help me align with God, how do I integrate those into my life? And if I believe that I co-create with God, how do I take responsibility for my creations? The word responsibility means the ability to respond. The ability to respond to what is grace. And let us ask ourselves, Jesus had disciples. Who do I have that supports me? Who do I have that supports me? And how do I support them? The root word of disciple means learner. Who is learning with me? Jesus demonstrated how to navigate through life. That is why we call him the way shower. He has shown us the way. In his human life, he gained Christ consciousness. Christ is the divine part of each of us, the eternal, unchangeable part that is spirit. It is the light within. It's our goal to recognize that, to let it expand, to rest in it, to operate from it. And we do that by raising our consciousness. It is said that Jesus went to heaven after his resurrection, that he ascended to heaven. Jesus taught that heaven, in Greek, the word oranos, which means heaven, means expansion. And Jesus taught that heaven was within us. So let us know that Christ consciousness within us expands with our practices, expands with our loving ourselves and others. When we think of heaven, we often think of hell. And hell is what we experience when we believe we are separate from all that is. When we feel alone and alienated. Charles Fillmore, Unity's co-founder, said, consciousness makes your heaven and it makes your hell. So when we are suffering in hell, let us remember who we truly are. And when we see someone suffering in hell, let us see them for who they truly are. So I am is so powerful. Yahweh, I am. It means the Spirit of God moving through us. So every time Jesus said, I am, he was referring to that Spirit moving through him, moving of him. One of the times he used I am was when he said, I am the resurrection and the life. I am the resurrection and the life. It might be easy in our human understanding to think he was referring to himself, Jesus the man. Remember, I am is God. Charles Fillmore said, in truth, There is within man a power that will lift him into the life, the understanding and the light of life, the understanding and the light of love. It runs through all of life. Jesus said, "Follow me and do as I do." Do as I do. I think that's one of the reasons that we keep coming back to his story. What did he do? How did he do it? Where did he get the support? Where did he get the energy to do what he did? The answers to all those questions are the same answer for ourselves. Paul, the disciple, said, "I die daily. I die daily." In saying that he also was resurrected daily. At the Last Supper, Jesus offered his body and his blood. The body of Christ is that which results from our spiritual understanding, wisdom, love, and the work we do toward that. He offered us eternal unity with God. One day, with enough practice, maybe enough lifetimes, that unity will be permanent. It won't be lost. The blood of Christ is the life essence. It's that vitality, that energy that is infusing everything. John said, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. I am." The Word of God is the divine Logos. I am. It is the creative power, and it includes all potentiality of beingness. And we have access to that creativity. We create the story of our own lives. Let us consider what life story we want to create. We don't have to wait for Easter to be reminded of all of this. We each have a soul that we experience in this life and goes beyond this life. And our soul infuses us with hope and light, especially when it is most needed. So happy Easter, happy Festival of Light. Let us take a breath together, and we will go into a short meditation. And Christina will provide us with music as we just open ourselves to expansion, whatever that means for each of us individually. Perhaps wondering, who are we and what are we here to experience and to do? Thank you, Christina. It's at this time that we go into our donation of love and light. Again, by taking a breath and being aware of the love and light within us, and simply allowing it to expand, remembering that the meaning of heaven is expansion. Let us take a moment, a heavenly moment. This love and this light expand, and we become aware of being a part of everything. It is all one, as are we. There is such hope in this love and this light. And so it is, and we will hear from Christina.
I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I am solid